On the coronation day, Yubo invited Priestess Zura, her daughter Odira, his friends and fellow warriors, to attend his big day. Wura Kingdom was filled with echoes of merriment and jubilation for a new dawn that is about to begin. During Yubo's coronation, he was asked to choose a wife, who will as well be crowned his queen. Without hesitation, Yubo chose Odira, daughter to Priestess Zura. Odira's traditional marriage rites was performed and they both were finally crowned king and queen. Priestess Zura was filled with happiness and finally left after the merriment. Odira, new queen, became more beautiful and happier. King Yubo loved his queen, Odira, so much and respected her a lot. Queen Odira healed those that Yella inflicted with sickness and gave water extracted from herbs to blind women to use it and wash their faces, and they eventually started seeing again. She did so many wonderful things that helped in restoring Wura people's health and wealth once again. After so many years of being married together, King Yubo and his wife Odira were unable to have children. It got to a point that people started talking. Odira, being a kind-hearted queen, suggested for the king to marry another wife in order to have an heir. But his loving and caring husband, King Yubo, rejected and reminded her what happened to their past king. He told her that in God's own time, they will have children. As more years passed, Queen Odira became more worried and disturbed. But each time she brought the idea of another wife to the king, he always waved it aside. Odira waked up one morning, with her disturbing issues of not having children, brought her ideas of another wife to the king and this time involved the elders. She arranged and invited one of her best friend, Annika, to the palace, but to their surprise, King Obu still refused and ordered his elders with Annika out of his palace. Queen Odira continued and tried all she could to convince her husband, but to no avail. When she saw that there is nothing she can do to change her husband's decision towards another wife, saga involved her mother, Priestess Zura. Priestess Zura became helpless seeing her daughter pass through same torture of not having children. She prayed to the gods to bless her daughter and advised her daughter to go back to her husband and stop looking for troubles in her marriage. After some years, Odira went back to her mother and requested for her help to talk to her husband, so he can get married to her best friend Annika. Priestess Zura, knowing how close Odira and Annika are, decided to speak to King Yubo about it. After so much persuasion, King Yubo accepted and paid Annika's bride price. After 1 year, Queen Annika became pregnant. Annika's pregnancy made her to change towards Queen Odira, who didn't give in to her constant nagging and hatred towards her. She always wondered how her once best friend turned and became her worst enemy. King Yubo, on his part, constantly called Queen Odira to warn her to be very careful of Queen Annika, as she have changed completely and no longer who she used to be. Queen Annika's recent behavior made King Yubo to stop her from going into his chambers. Annika later gave birth to a baby girl, and the news brought joy to the entire village. Yes, it was a huge blessing to the kingdom, and everyone became very happy. Queen Odira and King Yubo loved Princess Jeannie very much, but on the other hand, Queen Annika became very rude and disrespectful to Queen Odira, always reminding her of her inability to give birth to her own children. Annika always warned her maids never to allow Odira get close to her daughter, that she is evil. Annika used to call Odira unprinted names, while Odira, on the other hand, remained calm. Annika's constant disrespect to Odira angered King Yubo too much that he never looked Annika's way ever again, but was always seen sitting, chatting and laughing with Queen Odira. This made Queen Annika more jealous, and she decided to look for means to get Odira out of King's life and the palace for good. To succeed in her plans, Annika started acting nice and sorry to Odira for all the pain she caused her. She asked for Odira's forgiveness and started behaving well again. Odira, being a kind-hearted woman, forgave her and they became friends once again. Queen Odira spoke to King Yubo on behalf of her friend Annika to forgive her, but King instead warned her to be very careful of her, as the Annika he knows so well can never change but scheming. The following week, Queen Annika went out to seek the help of a powerful witch, who revealed to her all the secrets of Queen Odira's existence and how to get her out of the world for good. When Annika came back to the palace, she started looking for ways to win Queen Odira's trust and love again, in order to lure her into her plans. As time passes, Odira became so attached to Annika, as she has nothing against Annika, but pure love. They started going out together, telling stories, going to the river to swim, sit and gist as they normally do during their youthful days. King, on the other hand, became vigilant and provided enough guards to protect Odira, in order not to have a taste of their past King Lula's experience in his kingdom again. On that fateful day, Annika, unaware of the turn out of her plans, told her daughter's nanny to take care of her daughter and never to allow her go out of her sight. She went to Queen Odira's chamber and playfully as usual, told her to ask her maidens to come and escort them to the river. Odira, filled with happiness, called her maidens and also asked King's permission. King Yubo again instructed some of his powerful guards to go with them. Annika shows no anger on King's guards, as her plans against Odira is coming in a different form. She maintained her countenance as they left the palace to the river. When they got to the riverbank, King's guards positioned themselves not too close to the river while Odira's and Annika's maidens followed them closer to the river. There, they stood waiting up on their queens to be through with whatever they came to do. As they enter the river to swim, they swim and gist randomly. Queen Annika, being aware of her plans, watched Queen Odira from time to know exactly when to strike. As Annika noticed how free Odira felt swimming with her as usual, brought out a pair of sharp object which she hid inside her cloth. She swam towards Odira and immediately used the object and cut Odira's mystic beads and swim out of the river. Queen Odira let out a terrifying cry. She continues screaming as she turned to a fish from her waist down to her toes. Her eyes glowing like fire, and her body shimmering. Odira's maidens were terrified to see their queen in such form and ran to alert King's guards, who also became terrified after seeing her. They ran back to the palace and told everyone, including King Yubo, what had happened. King, being so surprised after hearing such news, ran as far as his legs could carry him. Queen Odira let out a terrifying cry. She continued screaming as she turned to a fish from her waist down to her toes, her eyes glowing like fire, and her body shimmering. Odira's maidens were terrified to see their queen in such form and ran to alert King's guards, who also became terrified after seeing her. They ran back to the palace and told everyone, including King Yubo, what had happened. King, being so surprised after hearing such news, ran as fast as his legs could carry him to the village river. Right before his very eyes, he saw his queen, Odira, so vulnerable and ashamed, hiding from him with a very long fish tail. Odira's anger was awakened by demeaning words Queen Annika started throwing at her in presence of King Yubo, calling her a cunning, wicked creature with ambitious mindset who have caged her husband for so long. Without wasting much time, King Yubo ignored Annika's tantrum and ordered his guards to go and fetch Priestess Zura, Odira's mother. Priestess Zura immediately ran to the scene to see what had happened to her daughter. When she arrived and saw her daughter's condition, she let out a sorrowful cry to the goddess and inquire what had gone wrong. One of Odira's maiden wanted to tell her, but was interrupted by Queen Annika, who told Priestess that Annika took it upon herself to expose a cunning devil in their midst. Priestess Zura, with agony, asked Annika what her best friend, who have loved her all her life, done to deserve this hatred from her. King Yubo pleaded with Zura, if there's anything to be done to revive her, that he is ready to cross the seven seas to find a solution that would help to revive his lovely wife. King Yubo turned to Annika, who was standing close to him, and told her to be prepared to live his kingdom as soon as he returns to the palace. Queen Annika, being disappointed at the turnout of the event, ran back to the witch and pleaded with her to kill Queen Odira to make sure she don't come back to the palace ever again. The witch told her that in order to win the battle, she will have to sacrifice her daughter Princess Jeannie. Annika, without thinking twice, ran back to the palace and took her daughter from her nanny and ran straight to the witch. As the whole villagers gathered at the river bank, watching Queen Odira in her new state, she started manifesting in anger. With all her power, she formed a wave that flowed her down to the village in search of Queen Annika. She was so angry to be betrayed by her best friend, who still have new plans to kill her by exchanging King's innocent daughter's life. Remembering how many years she have waited for her husband to have a child, she moved with more power and speed, not minding how the new event terrified her people and made them run for their life. She have a target, and her target was to save King's daughter. These whole event terrified King Yubo the more. But her mom was full sure of what to do, and this made her chant praises to the river goddess. She ran with the river until she got to the witch and flooded her house. It was a terrible fight, but Queen Odira later drowned the witch and rescued Princess Jeannie, holding her with one of her hand. She charged towards Queen Annika and dragged her back to the village square. Queen Odira commanded her to confess her evils, which Annika did and died immediately. Odira turned to King's direction and signaled him to come close and carry Princess. King, who was afraid of whom she had become, came through the leveled water and stretched forth his hands. Odira handed Princess Genie to him. She turned to her mum, Priestess Zura, greeted her with by sign and moved with the wave back to the village river. King Yubo, seeing how Odira saved his child, realized that she is still Odira, the kind-hearted maiden he married, followed her as she flowed back. Priestess Zura, on the other hand, ran back to her chambers to assemble all needed sacrificial items and returned immediately to the river. King Yubo carried his daughter and went in the river to meet with Odira, where she was sitting at the middle of the river. After talking to her without hearing Odira's response, she was responding to him in another language which he was unable to hear. He became so frustrated and went deeper in the river to drown himself and his daughter, but immediately, a familiar voice called out to him, and when he turned back to know who called, he saw Priestess walking down into the river. She told him to get out of the river as it is very dangerous to be here with Odira. She told him that she can't afford to lose any of them and will do what she is supposed to do in order to see them free. Odira, seeing Priestess coming into the river, disappeared and no one saw her again. Priestess Zura, seeing what happened, let out another sorrowful cry, and told King Yubo to kneel down at the riverbank and start pleading with the river goddess to release his peaceful wife, while she enter inside the river to perform sacrifice. She also told King Yubo that whatever that happened, he should not be afraid, but be strong enough to drag his wife out of the river immediately she emerged. Priestess Zura immediately started her journey into the river. With sacrificial items she arranged inside a white clean bowl placed on her head. She started chanting praises, holding the white bowl on her head with one hand and ringing bells with her other hand. She journeyed deeper and performed the sacrifice by drowning herself with those items. She exchanged her life for her daughter, Odira. Immediately, Odira emerged from the river. King Yubo rushed and carried her out of the river. They hugged each other and started looking out for Priestess Zura. They waited and waited for her to come out but couldn't see her. King Yubo, with his braveness, jumped into the river and started searching for Priestess. He searched and searched and searched but couldn't find her. He came out and let out a sorrowful cry, falling to the ground. His guards ran to him, but her told them to let him be. Odira and King Yubo knelt down and cried bitterly. They later went back to the palace. Queen Odira started raising Princess Genie as her own child with love and care. After few months, Queen Odira became pregnant and gave birth to a set of twin baby boys. They named them Prince Yua and Prince Odi. They lived peacefully ever after, and their 3 children grew up and became successful. The end. Moral of the story. 1. Don't trust people blindly. 2. There are many more wonderful morals in this story. You can see them staring at you as you listen and watch the video. Hello viewer. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story I shared in this video, do well to hit the subscribe button below. By subscribing, you will be the first to know when I upload new content, ensuring you never miss out on another compelling story. Don't forget to also turn on your notifications to stay updated. Thanks for your support. Until next time, stay blessed.